So luckily we are embracing this experience. Maybe we'll be able to draw them in. But I would love to hear maybe some of your guys' thoughts about what we've talked about so far. Have you thought about it? Yeah? Has there been some things like lingering in your mind, popping up? Yeah? Have you thought about how you maybe think about your body? Yeah. I know, but never in a nice way, are we? Oh, good girl. Okay. Yep. 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 Good. She's comfortable. I love it. Yeah, but there's something too. So we can absolutely love our body and feel comfortable. You know, my grandmother, she was in her mid 80s. My grandfather had passed away, and so she was kind of on her own, and it was like the first time her whole life, right? And so her and my grandfather had just moved into this new community before that happened, before he passed. And a couple houses down was this younger gentleman, a hot 60-something-year-old that grandmother started somehow, like, I don't know what was happening, but they ended up dating. It was really cute. And guess what? She's in her, again, mid late 80s, so somewhere around like 86, 87, and she decided to become a nudist. Who knew? And I'm sitting over here. It's funny how I feel about my body. And I'm like, and she's over there just like, yeah, whatever. And it's like, why do we wait until then to get comfortable in our skin? It was just so inspirational. Yeah. So, yeah, welcome to my family. I got some interesting, but definitely cannot tell you. But what's so interesting about, what you just said is that it's going to take us one more layer because, yes, we can be kind to our bodies, but there's also this thing about expectations and how expectations play out in our reality. For example, and this is really difficult, it's almost impossible to avoid it because you're living in society. So you're told certain things to expect. We expect to wake up and have breakfast. We expect to be hungry if we don't eat. And these expectations are the things that actually unfold as our life. I mean, what we expect is what we're going to experience. And something, for example, looking at me, people will meet me and they often have an idea of how old they think I am, right? Because of maybe how they met me. Maybe I'm their yoga teacher or I'm doing something. So they'll have decided I'm in this bucket, right? This is how old Debbie is. Then they come to a talk and they're like, holy shit, you got a 35-year-old child? Like, that makes no sense. My brain can't put that together. How old are you? And it'll be the first question, how old are you? Why do we want to know? That's right. We have to make sense of it. Wait, that doesn't work in my brain. I need to make sense of that. So she has to be this age. Now, if she validates that, if she tells me that is how old she is, now I need to find evidence of it to make sense of it. Or my brain will be in unrest. I just cannot until I make sense of it. And that's just the way we are. And there's certain expectations that you have about you. You have decided what you are going to see when you look in the mirror. Just because it's something that, even if society hadn't told you, you've gotten used to looking at this face in the mirror. And remember how we look at ourselves through filters? We look at the world through filters. So we are often looking in the mirror not to see what is right, but to see what is wrong, and then alter it, fix it. So that becomes the filter. So guess what we think of when we think of looking at ourselves? We have this expectation. I'm going to look in the mirror. I'm going to remember I have that one wrinkle over here. I've got this going on over here. And now I see it, and then I see evidence of it because I'm expecting that. So what happens if we changed our expectations? Well, you know how we do that? We will have to do something drastic because our brain needs to have something that makes sense. So the only way that we can expect to see something different is if we take an action that would validate a different result, correct? If you went and got some surgery on your face, you would then expect, I'm going to look in the mirror and see something different. Yeah, and that makes sense to us. Again, when we're following logic and this idea of the subjective or the objective reality and the way things that work, of course, Debbie, if I change my face, it's going to look different. What I'm telling you is, what if I got you to close your eyes, sit inside of your body, and picture a different face? Perfect, the way you want to see it. And you sat there until you could see it. In your mind's eye, you sat there until you could see it. You'd find that it's possible. You might have to start bit by bit because your old story is going to come right back and want to fill it in. And you're going to have the expectation of those wrinkles or this or that. But really all we're doing for ourselves is we're validating our expectations 100% of the time. That's all we're doing. So if we change things in our life, then we expect to see a different result, right? They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Yeah, because that's fucking insane. It's stupid. It's like, you can't just tell me, Debbie, you're doing the same thing and then something new happens. No, we've got to take and do something different. And I'm telling you, that difference doesn't need to be a physical action. The difference needs to be here. We just change the program. We expect to see something else, and your brain is rewired. Your eyes will look at the world differently. How do you know when you're looking out at the world, you're seeing the same thing I am? Go ahead. Okay. But how? How do we know? We don't. There's no way to ever verify or validate that. We definitely have an agreed upon reality. We've all agreed this is a table. So you and I know this is a table. That does not mean you know what I see when I look at this. If you were in my eyes looking at this table, it might look completely different. The colors might be different. We might have a different idea of what that spectrum looks like. We have no idea. But you and I have both agreed that's black, but I don't know what black looks like to you. And we never will. Because even if they were to develop some sort of technology where suddenly we could take your brain through AI and we could put you on a screen and show what's going on in your head, even then, whose eyes am I going to see it through? I'll be looking at the screen through mine, casting the filter of my experience. And the reason that this is so important to me and to share this with you and why it even matters is because the way we're going to finish the talk today is I'm going to read a little bit from my book, and what you're going to discover is where I used to exist and the life I was born into, the one that I didn't choose, the one I was given, was a very dark world. I saw things very differently. I absolutely would have looked at this table and it would have looked different. You could have put me in the most beautiful tropical place in the whole world you could ever imagine, and I saw a torture chamber. That's all I saw. I didn't know it was a torture chamber. I thought that's life. This is what life is. I didn't even have that reference to know it was bad or good. This is just life. But what happened is I did this work, this magical work. I don't know why I was graced with this. But I started on that path, the one I shared with you on day one. And as I moved through this path, it was like somebody came along and took a film off my lens, and the world just showed up different. I could sit right in the same thing, look at the same room I had seen 1,000 times, and I was like, where am I? Everything was lighter. It was brighter, and there was no fear, which was amazing. Where before I lived in fight or flight and I was constantly fear. I mean, I was scared of everything. I couldn't walk into a room without knowing where every door and exit was and how to place myself up against them so that I could get out before you could get me. I had all of that mapped down and I was really good. I was really good. I could escape anything. And I did. I have stories that would blow your mind of escape. Just blow your mind. They blow mine. But I'm telling you, that was a training that I had undergone, and I had gotten really used to that world. And then all of a sudden, one day, it changed. And I didn't have to fear anything. When that shifted, it was amazing. I could go places that I'd been before, and this whole other world was there right in front of me, and it was just absolutely mind-blowing. So I know what is possible. That's actually when I wrote my first book, The Path to Freedom. The reason I wrote it was because of that, because when the world changed for me, and I'm sitting here looking at this new amazing world, I had a whole bunch of friends that were still living in that dark place. Yeah? And they would be like, hey, Debbie, come over here, let's talk. And I would be over there, and I would just want to share with them about this new thing. Come over here with me. Dude, you don't want to live there anymore. Let me show you. And I couldn't figure out how to get them to come over with me and looking through these new lenses, right? And so I sat down and made it my kind of life purpose, I guess, to map it out. And that became The Path to Freedom. How did I do it? What were the steps I took? And I put it into a book. So I know if somebody follows this path, they're too going to be able to change their expectations of this world and change the perceptions and the view. And it's truly, it's pretty freaking cool, the amount of people that I've given this gift to. And they've changed their lives and their expectations. And we can get younger. You can look younger. You can start to reel back. You can wow people. People will be like, wait, what are you doing? Nothing. Thought having a good life, like literally nothing. I would never put something that says tox into my skin or in my body. I would never do any of these things that are, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just living my best life and having fun. So that was what we talked about yesterday and where we left off, right? Placebo. So it's kind of along the same thing, right? The power of the mind. The power of the mind. If we can take a pill that somebody has convinced us will do this thing, and then it creates that result. I mean, when we dive into this book, he's done it so well. I mean, he said there was times in the war where, they ran out of pain meds and they were having to do surgery. I mean, people were just blown up right there and they're in suffering and they're in pain. They would pretend to give them pain meds. The nurses had no other choice. They felt so bad. They just wanted to relieve them for a second. Yep, we're giving you pain meds right now. And guess what would happen? Pain gone. That's the power of our mind. The power of your body. So when we go back to kind of what we were talking about with, creation, remember how I said like the power of intention, like everything that we want, it's like just intention and attention. These are our two superpowers, right? Anybody wake up today and say, thank you, I'm so grateful, I surrender? Anybody try this? Yes, thank you so much. I love you. Yes, I surrender to the Holy Spirit, and here's my intention. This is what I'm going to create today. Okay, now comes this. How much faith do you really have that that's going to happen? So once you've decided this is what I'm going to create as my life today, tomorrow, next week, next year, the only person in charge of your reality is yours, as you. And this is what's going to decide it. How much faith do you have that will actually happen? So we can't lie to ourselves. You can't sit there and go, today, $1 million is going to fall out of the sky if you believe that's bullshit. Now, if you actually believe that and you have 100% faith, I will guarantee $1 million will drop out of the sky for you. I will guarantee it. I will guarantee it, but you've got to believe it first, truly. So there's some level of delusion that's not okay. No. So I always tell everybody, tell me your biggest dreams. I want you to write down like your biggest wishes. I'm your genie. What are they? And then we sit down and they go, okay, so if you're looking on a faithometer, kind of like the clap plausometer, Where on this meter is your faith? It will actually happen. When we first have the idea, like I would love to have, $1 million, we're at like 10% faith. We're like, I mean, it's possible. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people with $1 million. Like, it's possible, right? I don't know if it's going to drop out of the sky, but I mean, maybe. Who knows? I'm at 10%. Then we take an action, okay? Like, we sit down and we think about it. We go, well, what are some ways I could get $1 million? I could build a business. I could do this. And just giving it some energy gets you to like 20%, right? Now we have a little more faith because I've devoted some of my time and my attention towards it, correct? Yeah, and then somebody comes along and goes, yeah, dude, that's totally possible. You can absolutely do that. Yeah, I met somebody that they made $1 million doing that. And you're like, yeah, it is possible. Now we're at like maybe 60%. We've got a little bit more. And then we go take a class on how to make $1 million and we're at like 80. Once you get to 100%, it will happen. Some people are really, really good at this. Really good at this. They can visualize it and like myself, right? I just know, of course it's possible. I know I'm the creator. I know I can go like this and anything can happen. I don't need $1 million. And it's silly. And that's another thing. Like oftentimes we think, oh, my life will just be better with $1 million. Would it? In this moment, this very moment where you're all sitting right now, how would $1 million change this moment for you? It would not. If you had 10 million in your bank, it is not changing this moment ever. There is never a moment that you could be sitting in where $10 million changes it, period. Ever. It just changes your mind. Maybe. Really all it does is create resistance in this moment because it's something I don't have. So it keeps you in lack, that thought. But if you had it, it wouldn't change anything. I promise you. We always have what we need. It's always going to show up. So what we need to do, for me, if I want $1 million, I've got to create a need for it. What am I going to do with it? Give me a need, and then I create the deficit first, and the law of the universe is, the second the deficit is there, the money will come to fill it. So first I need to figure out what am I spending it on. I do a lot of workshops on this, getting people, most people will just kind of cycle around in their day-to-day life, and they don't really dream of anything outside of those boundaries of what they can afford, so they never call to themselves more. They stay in these limited realities. But if I get you to dream and require more, more will come. It's just the way it works. Even if that is more health, more happiness, more joy, more love, whatever it is you're looking for. So here's the second part. Not only is it the faithometer, but I'm going to ask you to look at your deservometer. Do you believe you deserve it? So even if you have faith that, yeah, Debbie, I can create it, do you believe you deserve it? Have you ever seen people that have, well, we're all well-traveled, right? You guys have gone to some cool places, so you've probably seen some street artists. They're sitting on the side of the street painting, and you're looking at this painting going, Jesus Christ, you're a goddamn Picasso. What just, right? Michelangelo, this is amazing. This is amazing. How much is it? $5. Right? Yeah? And I saw a chick on like Instagram that she would drink paint and then puke it up and it would spray, and then she sold these things for like $100,000. What's the difference between the two? Is one more deserving? No. No. But what does one believe? They're more deserving. She believes she is worth $100,000 for whatever reason. And that person selling that painting for $5, that's what they believe they're worth. And then some of the things that happen, see, because that person sitting on the side of the road has probably been self-trained. Probably or trained by somebody else that was doing it for $10. So how could I be worth more than my teacher, for example, right? But if we took that person and we put him into a college somewhere for painters and suddenly they got an education and then they felt more worthy, yeah? Then all of a sudden their deserve level starts to rise and they may charge more, right? But it doesn't really mean that they're worth more. It's funny to me, people that, you'll have these CEOs of companies going, well, these guys don't deserve the money I have because, I worked for it. I'm all, are you fucking kidding me? You guys know people that work 3 jobs, hardest work you've ever seen in your life to barely be able to put food on the table. I know what this is. It's, do they believe they deserve it? Who did they witness growing? Why am I more worthy when my mom and dad suffered working 5 jobs? Why would I deserve more? Yeah. They were taught the belief system of what they deserve. We all have certain levels of expectations. This is the expectation I have. And we often achieve that. The expectation or the level that you achieve is usually set by your mom and dad, the people that you watched. So that's usually about as high as we go. That's our top, is, this home the size of mom and dad, upper middle class, if that's where we came from. Yeah. And then we'll have a bottom that is very similar. It'll be the lowest we'll allow ourselves to go is wherever our parents experienced a low that we might have witnessed or seen. Does this make sense? Yeah? Yeah. So what I'm here to tell you is you all deserve it. I mean, in my mind, you deserve it. But that doesn't matter. I've got to convince you. You have to believe you deserve it. And then once you believe you deserve it, boom, it happens. And you can, sky's the limit. So everything in life, I kind of put this up here. I was trying to do this, I didn't have time. But cycles. I was just showing how everything moves in cycles, right? That we have the 1 second cycle, like beep, beep, and the new second starts, right? And then there's 60 seconds to a minute, and 60 minutes to an hour, and these cycles, and then 24 hours in a day, and then it's 365 days a year, right? And so everything's moving in these cycles, from the microcosm to the macrocosm, right? And then if we look at this, we're all moving on these cycles. We have that 1 second that we experienced, we have the 1 minute we experienced, and then we have the 1 hour, and we're moving through the cycle. And then we all have the exact same experience of the cycle of birth and death. Every one of us was born, and every one of us will one day pass away. It's part of the cycle. And in yogic philosophies, in reality, in truth, when you are born, the very first thing that we're looking for is an inhale. When we see that baby take a breath, we're like, thank God, right? When the baby takes a breath, this is because it is considered the vital life force. This is the energetic flow. It's the electrical pulse now sparks into that body, and the body is now able to run without mom's heart beating it and controlling it anymore, right? So we have, then at the end of our life, if you've ever witnessed the end of life, what's the last thing that we will do? Exhale. People often say, that it's actually measurable, like this exhale, the release and the body kind of falling, and we feel it. So there's the very first inhale, and then we end with an exhale. And then in between, there's many of these. This is one of my favorite quotes. Krishnamacharya, he's like the father of yoga, as far as we're considering it in the States. And so he said, inhale and God approaches you. Hold the inhalation and God remains with you. Exhale, you approach God, hold the exhalation, and surrender to God. This is one of the most powerful things that you could, if you take anything away from our conversations, it would be this. Everything is happening in the cycle of one breath. You are creating your reality in the moment. An entire lifetime is one breath. Literally all we ever have is that one singular breath which you are having right now. But most of the time it's happening unconsciously. We're not even aware of it. It's just a happening. But when we make ourselves aware of it, then we can see the exhalation in this moment is us releasing the moment, dying essentially, letting it go. The inhalation is you breathing life into this new moment that you get to decide what it is. You get to decide. You don't have to bring the last moment with it. You can let it go, but guess what we do? We just keep dragging that last moment right into this moment, and then we do the next one, and we never really consciously sit down and do what I asked you. Get into gratitude, surrender, and then set your intention. That's what they're talking about here. He's saying, exhale, let the moment go. Okay? Surrender, release it. Now take an inhale and decide what you're creating. Open your eyes, look for it, feel it, know it, and then be willing to let it go again. And so the only time that we're really living is at the top of the inhale. We sit in our creation. There's an opportunity to experience it. They say that life happens in the space between our breaths, in those moments where we're at the top of the inhale. So try it sometime. Just go, okay, I'm going to take an inhalation. At the top of my inhale, I'm going to notice. This is my reality. This is what I've created. This is where I am. Now I'm going to exhale. I'm going to release it. At the bottom of the exhale, I'm going to choose what I didn't like about that moment. What am I letting go of? What am I releasing? What do I not want to bring into my next moment? Surrender it, and then start over again. And you can do this just one breath at a time. Start to clear away the debris that you've been dragging with you for years. Maybe the debris that wasn't even yours. So this is often one of the biggest blocks. This is often in this idea of we create our realities. We're, Debbie, I want to dream big and wish big, and I want the $1 million. It's always about money, right? Somebody's like, Debbie, I've always dreamed of, traveling all over the world. And the very first thing that we do once we have a dream is we figure out how much it'll cost, correct? That's the very first thing. And then we look at our bank account, and then we go, okay, let that go. That's not happening. Maybe come back a little bit, right? And our bank account, again, as I mentioned, is really just to do with our belief systems. Oftentimes, we have taken on all of these beliefs about our worth, what we deserve, all of these limiting beliefs that mom and dad gave us about what money is and what we should experience. And so we are holding ourselves back from this full experience of life through having these beliefs. But we never really look at them. We never go, what are my beliefs about money? And where did they come from? How many of you were told money doesn't grow on trees? It's like in a tree, right? Yes, money doesn't grow on trees. Absolutely, right? That's a common one, right? What are some other limiting beliefs you might have been told about money? You have to work hard for it? Is that what you said? Yep, work hard. I mean, is that what we expect? The harder you work, the more money you get. Doesn't that make money sound like a shitty thing to obtain? Because I got to work hard for it. So I'm already working so hard. I don't know if I have any more time and energy to give, so I better just settle with what I've got. Yeah. So oftentimes, too, we expect that money is just going to come from that one source, right? So we think money can only come from a job. So it's only going to come from this job, which means I can only make a potential of this much, whatever that job's highest potential has. And usually there's a cap, right? So once again, we've limited ourselves. And then within that cap, then we can go, plus I only have so much energy, I have so many years, I only have so many days. So we've decided what our lifestyle is, period, we're done. And we're locked in. So the first thing I love to do is sit with people and just open up this capacity, just by opening up their mind. I don't even have to give them solutions. I'm just like, what if just today, in our imagination, we imagine all kinds of rivers flowing to us, bringing us money. So there isn't just one source, and we don't care where they come from, but they're coming. It's crazy because this, obviously, and I don't share anything with you unless I've overcome these beliefs myself. I had to work through it. And I remember one of the first times I did the work on money, there's actually two really profound shifts that I experienced. One was this. Somebody had asked me to look at what is my money block. It's like, what was the word that she used? The story, like, yeah, my money message, something like that, money block. Money message is actually the positive side of it. Um, so we had filled out some form, and we were asked to look at what was the very first experience that you had with money. So you would go back to your childhood and you would imagine like, and try and keep going back like earlier and earlier, like not the first time that you had a job, but the first time that maybe grandpa came up to you and said, here's a quarter. Now you spend it wisely and don't give, or whatever, right? Or somebody said, okay, and there's always, I promise you, it's gonna be profound because it's lodged in your brain and it created a belief system. So it's there. And for me, I'm sitting there, and it was really interesting. I think it was like some church, like some new age thing, and this woman was there doing a prosperity talk, and she said, fill this stuff out, and I'm just like, whatever, I don't even know why I'm here, but, showing up. Anyways, and I started sitting down, like looking back and looking back and looking back, and I realized one of my first experiences with money for me personally was when I was really young, I had an abuser that used money to keep me quiet. And so there were several ways that they used it, actually. One was to keep me quiet. So here's $1, don't tell. And I was young enough that I'm like, who am I going to tell? I'm bad. I feel bad. I feel wrong. I feel yucky, right? It's like the way the kids take on these stories. So now, guess what? This dollar was the most horrendous thing in the world. I didn't even want to look at it. I hid it somewhere in my room, and then there's more of them. You give me more, right? And so I had this little safe of these dollars, and I hated them. Never took them out, never spent them. How could I? How would I explain where they came from? It was dirty. He used money, he hid it on his body. I was to find it, things like this. It was an abuse, right? But the magic was I'd carried this belief system. What had happened, because I had tied as a small child in the programming of my brain, I had connected money as dirty, and it was connected to my sexuality and my worth. And then guess what? My life proved to be. I spent my whole life until that moment, until it was uncovered, until I saw it, until I realized it, making my money through my sexuality in a dirty way, hating myself, feeling horrible. I'd just taken that belief, and now it'd become my life. Everything that I did, and again, I wasn't consciously choosing that. I didn't even know. It was just that was my path. All the way down to that day when I'm sitting in that church. I was actually building a yoga studio at the time, so I'm like walking 2 feet in two worlds, right? Trying to get out of this old way and get into this new way, and I can't figure it out. But I didn't see that within me was this old belief, and so at the time, the old world, I was working at a Hooters because it was easy. It felt safe. I couldn't, it was like I've got kids, I've got a house, I've got all this stuff. I know I can walk in, I'll get that job. And I know I could probably make, money doing that. And so it was a safe thing because that was the program. That was the program. And the second thing that had kind of, I guess, broke me free through the money messaging was I had done another workshop, and it was around what I was talking about, this opening up of avenues. Hey, now you're expecting money come from just this limited place. What if we start to open up the possibility money can come to you from all sorts of different sources? And we're not even going to label it. We're not even going to decide what those sources are or where. We're just going to picture it flowing to us from all directions. And it's just playful. It's just like, does it hurt to visualize it? Why not see? So, this is why I can confidently tell you this stuff, because it fucking works. It works. We did this. And again, I'm in a pretty blocked world back then. Nothing ever came to me for free. I never got anything for free. And here I was, this woman's trying to tell me to believe, like, shit's just going to roll in. I'm like, okay, whatever. So we're doing the work, and it's kind of submersive. It's a full weekend together, and we're doing this. And she keeps beating it in that this, we're going to have this prosperity, this new thing. She said, pick a number. I made it believable. I think I said $2,000, something like that. And then I left, and I went home after the weekend. And when you do work like that, when you're doing, you're exhausted. It was a heavy, and so I didn't really want to talk to anybody. I was kind of doing my thing, and my phone's ringing off the hook, and I'm not answering it. And finally, I'm like, God, it's my brother. He keeps calling. So I decide to freaking answer the phone. I'm like, what? What? He goes, Jesus, why can't you answer your phone? Brothers, why can't you answer your phone? God. And I was in a workshop. I was doing shit, like maybe, whatever. And he goes, well, I'm just trying to tell you that I have some money for you. I'm like, what do you mean you have money for me? He goes, well, Mom and Dad, by the way, my mother and father, at this point I had been, remember I had been booted out of my house. I've been on my own. I've been in these, I've never had a penny come from my mother and father. The last source on the planet, on the literal planet, if you had told me that, you would give me $1 million, I just never would have believed in any capacity it would come from Mom and Dad, okay? But he's like, Mom and Dad have decided that they are wanting to, I don't know, put together our inheritance. Well, because my dad's just so pissed at giving taxes away. He'd rather give it to us, I guess, at that point. I just don't want the tax man to take my, something like that. So he had wrote us all checks for $2,000. Yeah. Yes. It literally floored me. It's like there couldn't have been more of an affirmation just because of the source it came from was so literally impossible. And so these things just sort of like built these belief systems. And I'm like, well, if this works, let's see what happens here. And I just started walking toward things without needing the proof of the money, without already needing it. I'm just going to step in the direction of it, and then boom, it comes. And one of the things that is most important on that journey is this. There's 3 layers of consciousness that we need to understand. This is what we're operating under. Number 1, the conscious mind. Are we familiar with our conscious mind? This is the thing that you're using to make a decision. Like when I'm walking here and I go, do I want to go that way or that way, right? I'm using my conscious mind. I'm in the moment. I'm kind of deciding. But you know who's really driving that bus? Subconscious. Yeah, because you got those stories, those limiting beliefs that are sitting somewhere in the background that direct the conscious mind, right? We don't even realize it. So for us to truly take an action that is in the conscious realm, we have to sit there and think about what's my end result, create that vision, and then use the conscious mind. And we have to start to look at what is being revealed in my subconscious when I do that. What is the limiting belief that's showing up? And I got to turn and shine the light on it and look at it and go, is it true? Then there's this third part. And this can kind of get people hung up, like, oh, geez, here we go, God talk again, God consciousness, whatever. But what I'm trying to say is there's this third little element that is the magical element that I can't explain. That's the part where I'm telling you to surrender, right? That's the part where I'm saying just let it go to something, give it to something, release it. And okay. So and here is a really good example of how this works. Back in the day, I was a realtor. And so, yeah, real estate, actually, it was a perfect playground for the stuff I'm talking about because it's sales. So you're constantly in stressed outville, right? You're always like praying for that next deal or everything's falling apart, right? They would say that everything in your life, every problem is solved by one more deal. I'm like, that's real. And so we used a lot of law of attraction. I was holding those meetings I was talking about, and a lot of the realtors would come. We'd have these big settings. It was, they just needed something to cling on to keep them in a positive thought. But anybody remember what happened in 2009-ish? The bubble. Real estate bubble happened. Here I am, this realtor with 2 kids and a family and a home and this all on my own, right? And the bubble popped. And this was, whoa, this will wipe you out. Like it's some scary shit. There was no, you could not sell a house unless somebody came along with cash. Like there was no, even if you by some miracle got a loan, by the time that house closed, that loan was gone. it was just like we could not. Luckily, I was very, very blessed, and I got into short sales. So I learned how to kind of work that system because everybody's foreclosing. So I'm going to help you foreclose on your home, basically, and help you work the deal so you don't have to go bankrupt. And then I sell that house to somebody, and it was just like. But I got in, either way, it was a real crappy situation. At the time, I'm doing a lot of attraction talks. And so I had gotten to this belief system that when everything seems to be falling apart, that's the perfect fertile ground for something to grow. I had told myself this over and over again. Debbie, this is where the miracles happen. This is where the miracles happen. There's nowhere to go but up from here. Like I am like in the bottom. Like, I mean, I remember a moment literally getting on my knees like I surrender. I literally surrender. Like, you can take nothing else. My house was in foreclosure. I did it on purpose so I could rework the loan just because I couldn't pay it. So I had no choice. I was praying. So I was just fear. It was a really scary time. And then, and I'm doing these law of attraction groups, and I'm asking people what are their biggest dreams, what do they want, what is. So I'm driving down the street at some point, and I'm in, I had like a Lincoln Navigator, like a perfect like realtor car. I'm like, I got the babies in the back with the screen, like all the things. And somebody called me, and it was one of the people that were coming to my sessions, like something like this. We were meeting together, and they said, Debbie, you're always asking everybody what they want, what their dreams are. What's yours? And I always hated it when people flipped a mirror on me. I'm like, shut up and leave me. No, I was like, I don't know. I've always wanted to, have my own yoga studio. And he was like, why don't you have your own? Yeah. And I wanted to stab him in the face. I was like, instantly. This is when we know a block has been hit. Remember the girl with the dancing? It was like that. This was a block. I immediately was so angry. That's where everything rose up within me. What? Are you going to come and take care of my kids? Do you want to pay for the teacher training? Huh? Well, who's going to do this and this and this? I have a family. I don't have it easy like you. I've never had anybody take care. All of that rose up inside of me that I didn't even know was there. Just one question. And I didn't say all that. I was like, I don't know. I can't afford it. And he was like, I go, no, this is what I said. I go, because I don't even teach yoga. And so all of that bubbled to that. That was, my reasoning for not teaching yoga. And he goes, well, why don't you? Again, I wanted to, I was just so mad. And he was the epitome to me of everything that easy, he was the guy that had chosen that techie job. He had a wife that took care of all his stuff. He was he was the opposite in my world of my blocks. He didn't understand me. He couldn't understand what it was to live my life. It was the way I felt, right? So he's telling me this, and I'm like, and then he goes, it sounds like somebody has a block. He literally said that. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not the same. Because he had witnessed me do this to many people, like everybody, this is a block, we're witnessing, and now it's like on me, and I'm super mad. And so I'm like, this is different. And then I'm going, is it? Is this what they feel like when I do that to them? And I'm like, no, this is definitely different because this is real. And then I'm like, okay, well, I got to prove it's real. So I'm still in the car. I decide, I'm wearing my realtor stuff. I got pumps on, all this stuff. And I decide, I see a gym. Off to my left, I decide to pull into this gym. Just to prove, right? So I go, I'm going to go prove this. I walk into this gym, and I'm standing there, and there's this girl who could give a shit less about me standing back there. She's not even, acting as if I'm, just this whole thing. And I'm just waiting to verify and validate my excuses, And she goes, she finally turns around, can I help you? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, I was just wondering if you guys, needed a yoga instructor. She goes, you? And I'm like, well, I mean, if you're looking for one. She goes, well, do you have your yoga training? And I'm like, no. And I'm, thinking I'm winning. And she goes, oh, do you have your blood pathogen something or other? I'm like, nope. She's like, do you got your CPR? I'm like, nope. She goes, yeah, I guess we can use you. Swear to God, I almost fell over. I'm like, that didn't even make sense. I just said no to every one of your questions. She's like, yeah, I guess you could. She goes, could you teach an abs class? And I'm like, I don't even, okay. Like I was thinking something else I always was teaching people. It was like I created this 7 steps to the law of attraction. Number 1 is you gotta say yes. Damn it, here I go again, putting myself in this. So I had to say yes. Yes, I can teach an abs class, I guess. I'm going to keep showing up. So I ended up doing that. I ended up showing up and teaching this class like so crazy, right? I didn't have any sort of anything, but I stepped into it. Obviously, this chick was crazy. Okay, obviously. So that played out at some point. I'm teaching this class. She's a little cuckoo. At the same time, I'm nervous. I am like self-sabotaging quite a bit. There was a lot of me pulling up to teach the class. I would sit in the parking lot, stare at the place. I would see 20 people going in to take the class, and then I would drive off. There was a lot of that. I was so scared. I was so scared. And then the thing I would tell myself is, on the times that I did show up, I would remember the way I felt at the end. And if I could just think of that, it would get me in the door. I go, Debbie, you're going to get there eventually. It's going to suck, but then you're going to feel the way you feel when you're walking out and it feels good. You got to keep doing it. So I did. I did it for a while, and then she, at some point, she like lost it on me. Probably valid, but she was a little cuckoo. And so I said, you know what? I resign. I can't have somebody like screaming at me. Plus, there was the self-sabotage. So then months go by. I'm in this, real estate. Months go by. I'm driving by this gym. I'd never been paid. Never been paid, and I didn't want to. Like, that wasn't why I was doing it. I didn't, again, have any worth, self-value, and definitely for that, like, didn't make sense. So, but I happened to be driving by, and I thought, I might as well just go in and see if there's a check, what if? And so I pull in, and the guy, right when I walk in the front door, this guy comes running from across the gym, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you're here! Oh, thank goodness! Oh, can you come here for a second? Don't go anywhere. Just come here." And he's like, grab me. I'm like, "What is happening?" And he pulls me over to sit me down. He's like, "My name is so and so. I own this gym." He goes, "First of all, I just want to start by saying I'm so sorry about." The crazy chick, right? So sorry. And also, she no longer works here. I'm like, okay, I don't. And he's like, we didn't have your information. Remember, she had never even taken down my name. I don't even think they had my phone. And she had been fired, so they didn't have any way to reach me. And, and I had made an impact. These people wanted me. He had had so many requests. People were like, "Where is she? Is she coming back?" And so he was begging me, and he actually lays out this whole like, the schedule, and he goes, "Here, I know that you can pick anything that you want to teach, put it anywhere on this. Here it is. You do you." And he goes, "We just want you back." So, and this is the way it works. I'm telling you, universe will open up when we show up like this. And he goes, "And I know that she said she was going to pay you $10 a class." It's true. He goes, "But I'm going to pay you $25 for every class that you already taught, and then everything going forward." And so I'm like, okay, how can I not say yes, right? This is obviously something I'm supposed to be called into. So I start teaching again. Now I'm like driving, just going some real estate related thing, and I'm back to teaching, and I'm just driving along, and all of a sudden I have this really weird download. It was basically the thought of maybe how we linger with thinking. I just had a meeting the night before where we were talking about our dreams and talking about we create our reality, and we were kind of in all of that. So I'm driving thinking that. And I pause, and I'm like, if we create our reality, Debbie, look at what you've created. And I just really saw, I was like looking out of my eyes at my hands holding the steering wheel, out my windshield. This is what you've created. And I was just sitting with that for a second, like, this is your life. You created this, your home, your kids. I started just seeing it, and right where I was. And so it came at me so intense, I decided to pull the car over so I could sit with that. I pull over, closing my eyes, and I'm like, okay, if this is what I created, what would I want to create? What if I could create anything? What if I could close my eyes, open my eyes, and I'm walking into the world that I want? What would that be? And I sat there and thought, instantly I want to have my own yoga studio. I mean, that had always been there for me. So I asked myself, why? Why? Why is it important to have your own yoga studio? And I immediately had the answer. I wanted to have control. I had so much respect for the yoga, the teachings, the things that I had experienced and a lot of that had been diluted and changed, and you couldn't find it. And so I really wanted to create this experience for people. And then I thought, well, do I have to own it? Maybe I could just manage it. I was like, just really getting clear. And I'm like, I don't care how the ownership looks. I just want to have control of what's offered there, the way it's offered, like, the experience. And so I got really clear about it. And then I asked myself, I don't know where this shit came from. I literally, this is me, pulled over on the side of the road. And I go, all right, well, if that's what you want, is there a step you could take right now? And these were some of the things I would put people through, is there a step you can take right now? And I thought, well, I'm in real estate. At the time, remember, there's this crisis happening. A lot of commercial properties are being sold. They were foreclosed on. I'd been working with this guy who was doing a bunch of slimy stuff. I didn't really like him that much, but he came to mind. And I thought, he's working in the commercial world. Let me just call him up and see if he knows about a property that could be a good yoga studio. And so I call him up, and he goes, well, what's it for? I go, well, I'm thinking about yoga studios. For you? And I went, yeah. And he goes, yeah, I got a place. And he tells me, he goes, there's this building. It's right, blah, blah, blah. I happened to be at that point a few blocks away from that building, like right where I pulled over on the side. I still hadn't left the side of the road. And so he goes, I can have somebody meet you there right now. I'm like, okay. So I go, I drive and meet them there. And by the way, at this point, I'm feeling a little bit kind of, there's that tiny bit of inkling of, I don't want to waste people's time. I remember, I'm in the house is foreclosing. I have this many dollars in my bank account. Actually, we're put a negative on the other side. In no way, shape, or form should I be talking to somebody about potentially opening a business. There was literally no sense to be made of that whatsoever. But I, for some reason, put one foot in front of the other anyways. And I met the person. I was like, it can't hurt. I'll just meet him there. And I'm sitting there. It's like an old paint store. It's like this big property. And I'm in there, and I'm like, oh, I could see it. It's horrendous. Like, this building is horrendous. No yoga studio should be there. Probably toxic chemicals. I'm like, over here could be this, and over here. And I'm like imagining it. I go outside. I'm taking pictures of the building from the street. And I'm like, oh, my God, I can see it. And then I leave. Again, there's really no way this could happen. I don't know what's happening. I'm just one foot in front of the other. I leave. So fast forward 2 days later, I'm teaching a class at that place. Remember? I'm teaching a class there. And at some point during the class, it was an MMA gym, I should say. These guys were like, So it happened to be an MMA gym that had a whole bunch of women, like older women, that also attended for the yoga. like I probably had like 40 people very consistently coming. And so these guys, you would hear like weights like boom, and so they loved to peek in too and like, hey, what's going on? It was just so not conducive to yoga. And so I remember at some point saying, like, when I have my own yoga studio, this shit would not happen, right? When I have my own yoga studio. So at the end of the class, one of the ladies comes up to me and she's like, hey, Debbie, can I talk to you for a second? And I said, yeah, of course. And she goes, did you mean what you said about having your own yoga studio? And I was like, well, I would love to. It's always kind of been my dream to have my own yoga studio. And she goes, I want to give it to you. Yeah. She goes, my husband, his mom just passed away, and we got $100,000, and I want you to take it. I want to build a business with you. I just want to be part of it in some way. She goes, again, it's $100,000, and she goes, will you come with me right now and meet my husband? Okay. So I follow her. I get in my car. We drive to house. I call somebody, of course, to tell them where I am. I'm somewhat safe, right? Because it is nighttime, and I show up, and her husband's there. But now I look serious. Remember, I got pictures? Yeah, I'm looking at this building down the street right here. I'm like, I've got stats. I look like I'm really seriously doing this as I meet her husband. It just was random. And I feel like they didn't want to miss out on it. She had sold me in such a profound way to him. And so by the end of this meeting, he's shaking my hand like, let's do this. And from that point on, actually, she didn't drop it. She just when are you going to find the spot? When are we going to do this? When da 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 da? And next thing you knew, I had a yoga studio. I had to build it with my own hands. It wasn't easy, but see, that's the portion of God consciousness. I had to give it up. There is no planet where I would have thought, this is how I'll get there. This is how I'll get there, right? No, there's no, if I would have gave you that dilemma, if you had met me prior to that series of events, and I said, here's what I want, do you think in any world you would have come up with a plan that would have got me there? It would have been almost impossible, I promise you. Almost impossible, unless you knew about some investment strategy that was gonna, like, you had the secret dibs. I don't know, like, so. But either way, no matter what we're talking, it's a effing miracle. So the thing is, this is what I learned. There's a key to, okay, I'm just gonna see it, I'm gonna believe it in such a capacity that I'm gonna start walking towards it, even though it's not there, and I'm just gonna surrender the problem. I'm not gonna like try and solve the steps to get there. I'm just gonna see the end game. And magic has happened since. I mean, that's like that. I opened my yoga studio in 2011, on January 2000, so right at the beginning of 2011. So we're talking over 15 years ago. So I could tell you 17 billion of these magical stories since. I mean, look at where I am right here. How do you think this happened? I mean, that story is even more incredible, right? Like, it's quite profound. Well, let's see if there's anything in here. Yeah, so I see people coming, so I don't want to go any further. But I'm wondering, Diego, do you have a talk? At 4. Oh, okay, that sucks. All right. Tim told me there wasn't anything happening at 4. So I was going to do a book reading, but that works out. We'll just figure out another time. What's that? Oh, he did. Oh, where did they? Oh, okay, well then that's helpful. Screening room. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we'll just move it over there. I was expecting here. All right, well then I shall get out of his way. Sorry for that weird ending, but hopefully we feel more inspired. I don't know. All right. I love you. Thank you, guys. Yes. Thank you so much.